The Audi e-tron is finally here, the first foray by the four-ringed Bavarian to the EV space. The e-tron uses the VW Group's MLB Evo platform. It's taken its time getting here, but it is at least driving in alongside its Sportback alter ego. At first glance, and indeed when I first saw the static e-tron last year, it screams conventional Audi. It very much looks like a new avatar of the Q7 or perhaps even the electrified version of a Q7. And yet the two cars are not very similar in size, attribute and engineering terms, of course. The e-tron looks like an Audi through and through. Yet, while it manages to endear itself to Audi fans and adopters due to its familiarity, it also manages to stay vastly distinct and different from the others, cars like the Jaguar I-Pace, Mercedes-Benz EQC and globally, the Tesla Model X. Yes, those cars are very different in shape and even size, but given the EV space is not yet crowded and certainly more so in India, that will have to do for the rival set. And let's not forget that Audi is playing it bold by simultaneously launching the e-tron and e-tron Sportback, the sleeker coupe avatar that is also now launching in India. The green license plate. Only electric cars get it, you know that. But from Audi's point of view, there are other elements which make it specifically EV or e-tron. The single frame platinum grey grille with its vertical slats, that's reserved for the electrics. You've also got orange brake calipers, the little orange badging around e-tron logo here on both sides, by the way, because you've got these electrically retracting flaps that open up for the charging points also on both sides, as I said. One's AC and DC, the other one's not, but it's nice that it's on both sides. That's the obvious stuff, but you've also got something subtle, which is a nice little touch from the designers, I think. This black element that you see down here, you'd think it's just part of SUV styling, yes, but it's been put specifically where the car's battery pack is. So it's a way to sort of tell you or symbolize the car's battery pack. That is at the heart of every EV. You've also got two bulges back here, kind of subtle and very typical of Audi because that tells you it's Quattro or all-wheel drive enabled. In this case, e-Quattro. For India, the car gets 20-inch alloy wheels, the continuous LED strip taillights, a panoramic sunroof and Digital Matrix LED headlamps. Now they have lane light, predictive cornering and they also animate in different sequences. Also new is a digital light projection possible in 5 patterns that the cluster will project on a wall or surface ahead of the car. Some of these features are only on the top variant, of course. The car's boot space ranges from 660 to 1,725 liters of space if you fold down the rear seats. In the front, you also have a 60-liter storage compartment that can house the charging cables, etc. The idea of the e-tron, like the slightly smaller Mercedes EQC, is to ensure that the premium buyer is not alienated by the EV or electric vehicle. So the car needed to be familiar and not weird in any way. Audi EVs that follow soon may therefore be seen as more progressive or cutting edge than the e-tron, especially in styling terms. But that in itself was the point of going more mainstream with the e-tron's looks. Yet the car boasts a lot of kit and tech. So let's dive in, or should I say plug in. The e-tron is being offered with two variants, the 50 and 55. Both get a two-motor setup, one at each axle, and the transmission is a single speed. Quattro all-wheel drive and the adaptive air suspension are standard for India. Today I am driving the e-tron 55 Quattro, which is the top spec model. The 55 gets a 95 kWh battery and the car's motors punch out a combined 402 bhp and a huge 664 Nm of peak torque. 0 to 100 km per hour takes 5.7 seconds. Driving range of the e-tron 55 is between 359 and 484 kilometers on a full charge, depending on the weight on board and driving conditions, of course. The e-tron 50 gets a smaller 71 kilowatt-hour battery. On this variant, the max power stands at 308 bhp and you get 540 newton meters of peak torque. But like I said, today we have the bigger and more powerful powertrain. Globally, there is a range-topping 496 bhp S variant, but India won't be getting that. You'll probably get tired of us talking about the instant torque you get on electrics, but you know what? Every time you get into one, you can't help but get excited about that. Yes, it is great fun to push the pedal to the metal because the car just takes off. But having said that, what's nice in this car is that for a lot of people who are transitioning from an ICE car to this one, especially those who like the VW universe and Audis in particular, they'll find it very familiar, very easy to drive, and certainly not disconcerting or worrying or apprehensive in any way. The power delivery is really nice and smooth, and it's very easy to get used to. The regenerative capability is also, like many cars, in 3 degrees or 3 steps. So you can have the maximum amount of regenerative process, as well as trying to keep it on a nice coast mode where it's not sort of eating into or impeding your driving style in any way. And you can adjust that while you're driving, of course. That goes without saying. The standard adaptive air suspension gives you great ride quality and a supple feel. This is where the e-tron scores, as it has a nice big car feel with the comfort and SUV presence balanced quite beautifully. You also get Audi's Drive Select that lets you toggle between the various drive modes, including an off-road mode where the air suspension rises by 35 millimeters. The efficiency mode is not ideal if you want quick or furtive responses for very quick maneuvers in traffic or on the highway. Now, across variants, you also get Audi's progressive steering, which is great to have because what it means is the car will give you the right kind of steering response as you need, and that's based on not just your own driving inputs, not just on the Quattro all-wheel drive system, but also on the kind of traction the wheels are getting and of course the speed you're driving at. The e-tron has 8 airbags, ISOFIX child seat mounts and tire pressure monitoring. It also gets an acoustic sound system that uses external speakers so that the otherwise silent car can be detected by pedestrians. The e-tron comes with charging points on both sides of the car. It is an AC power inlet on the left and an AC and DC socket on the right. An 80% charge using a basic 11 kilowatt AC charger will take 8.5 hours. The same on a 22 kilowatt charger will take 4.5 hours. On a 50 kilowatt DC charger, that time drops to a shade under 2 hours and under an hour on a 100 kilowatt DC charger. Of course, an 80% charge using a 150 kilowatt fast charger will need just under half an hour charge time. The car comes loaded with goodies like the latest MMI infotainment system, a B&O 3D sound system with 16 speakers, ambient lighting, a 360-degree camera, ambient air package, soft touch door closing, head-up display, and the virtual instrument cluster. Again, not all of this is standard, but buyers at this end of the market do like all the bells and whistles. The e-tron's cabin is high-end, very well loaded, and you know what, you'd expect that. But what's good is that across both variants that are being launched in India, a lot of stuff that would be optional is actually standard, like Audi phone box, the wireless phone charger where your phone fits in vertically and keeps charging. That's nice, the wireless charger that is. You do have, of course, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, though it doesn't connect wirelessly. The 3-screen display, virtual cluster, you're used to that on Audis, looks and works very well. Haptic feedback on the dual screens here also looks and works very well. Audi Drive Select and a whole host of features, including a Bang & Olufsen sound system. Now, you've got a lot going on in this car in terms of technology that sits, outside of your user interface space. But what's good is that everything that is in here in the cockpit area also kind of keeps up with that. And this is important, not just because this is a pricey model, but because it needs to be the flagship for Audi here in India too. A car that represents not just the best that the brand can offer its discerning buyers, but also stands for future-looking, modern technology at the very cutting edge. So it may not be the most sporty premium brand EV, nor the most powerful, or some may say maybe not even the most beautiful. But the e-tron balances today's buyers' needs with tomorrow's buyers' expectations and requirements quite well. We expect prices to range between 1 crore and 10 lakh to 1 crore and 20 lakh rupees ex-showroom. I am glad to have spent a substantial amount of time with it today. Now, all I want to do next is to get behind the wheel of its slightly sexier twin, the e-tron Sportback.